This is another one of our podcasts and video chats that we're doing over the last few months and for the next year. And with the focus more on clients and the market and leaders in the space, um, we thought we'd try and get Thomas involved in the chat. And he's had to put up with Dave Gunnell for the last couple of months. But despite that, he's still willing to talk to me. So Thomas Scarrott. So Thomas, I'll let you explain a little bit about who you are, what you do, what your business is, how you've grown it, and then we can get stuck into having a bit of a ramble for the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Thomas Scarrott. I'm one of the directors of Vale Holiday Parks. We're a family-run business based in Aberystwyth in mid Wales, and we currently have 12 parks in our group, as far north as North Wales and as far south as Cornwall. We have two parks in Perranporth, and we are a traditional family-run holiday park business. I think that'd be the best way to describe us. Mum and dad's involved in the business still. Brothers are involved in the business. The wives and sister-in-laws are involved in the business, and also the next generation, our children, are involved in the business as well. So we're a fully family-run business, I would say.
And I'll pick up on that straight away then, because that's really interesting to me coming from different sectors.
Mm.
That's incredibly important, clearly, to you and the family. How important do you think that is to guests and customers and owners and that? Because the market's undergoing quite a lot of change, isn't it? You and your parents probably and your brothers have probably seen that. How important do you think that is in today's world for family owned business?
I think it's good to have the familiarity. I think it's good to have the continuity as well. I mean, like, as we're recording this podcast, my dad is driving from Aberystwyth to a park in Devon, taking stock down there for the weekend.
Yeah.
Um, my brother is driving another vehicle, taking plant equipment down there.
Mm.
And two doors over from where I am now, I've got my sister-in-laws and my wife in our accounts department. So
Right.
that familiarity is certainly a good thing to have.
Mm.
And a lot of our customers have been with us for many, many years. And they've probably seen me grow up in the business. I'm in my mid-40s now, so some of our customers can remember me when I was sort of, just barely able to walk. So
Mm.
it's good to have that familiarity and to have that continuity.
So it's a unique selling point, do you
I
think?
think so, yeah. I mean, look, there are plenty of other holiday parks out there that've got a very similar setup to us,
Mm.
and you tend to find that they seem to be the ones who are doing pretty all right at the moment, because of the way in which they're structured. I think it comes with its challenges, there's no doubt about that. And in our business, it's as simple as my dad is the captain of the ship, so he's the managing director. So even though myself and my two brothers are doing pretty much the day-to-day run of the park, that along with the wives and the sister-in-laws and everything, my dad has the final say. So
Yeah.
whatever happens, he has the final say, and that's the way in which the business will always run as long as he's around.
I can ask you a question on that because so we've got a few clients, very similar situation. West Dorset Holidays, we've got
Mm,
a few others, and what's been interesting to me is to see the way the MDs who really set the businesses up and are the dads or the grandparents and that kind of stuff make their decisions. So does your dad, as an example, does he because of his experience in the sector and growing a business, never mind park, but growing a business from nothing to what you've got now, does he what part of this kind of data and kind of numbers, because you said about your wife and your sisters in the accounts department, and I'll, you've spoken to Dave quite a lot, so I know that data and kind of and how it plays a part, and how much does kind of like an instinct with your dad and you and your brothers come into play when because I hear this quite a lot in the park sector more so than other sectors. There's a bit of an instinct. This feels right. This is the. Did you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, look, I think you come across a lot of businesses that are very data driven. So they'll have all the dashboards, have all the analytics, they'll have five or six screens with these fantastic looking Power BI dashboards on there.
Mm.
But often that does not reflect the reality of what's happening on the ground. So as trivial as it may seem, my dad's going to a park, one of our parks in Devon today to drop some stock off there. The insights he will get from that, from being on the ground, just walking around the park, is completely immeasurable when you compare it to the insights you'd get from data on a computer screen. It's a lot more valuable having that instinctive um, outlook rather than just sitting behind a desk and going, well, we need to look at these KPIs and base our key decisions off what that data is saying. Don't get me wrong, data is key, and we couldn't run our business without the dashboards and without Power BI. But ultimately, it needs an actual human being with experience and knowledge to have feet on the ground to tell you exactly what's going on and just having that instinctive feel for the way in which the business is going.
It gives you that you're right. I couldn't agree more. That is a massively overlooked part of hospitality.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? You get there's a lot of vendors in the entire hospitality space that kind of bombard clients with data, and people in hospitality to be hospitable and talk to people, right? And go around and
yeah.
see what the problem is, and oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll cut the grass that way, or we'll put a bed in there, and it just encourages people to engage and stay. One of the things on data. So one of the things I'm interested in is how, because you're in your mid 40s now, you're a young man, Thomas, compared to me. Even though you were saying before we come on about the grey hair and the just
And I'm getting too much grey coming in there
look at this man. I mean, look at this plate of me. Uh, so you've obviously seen some changes with the use of tech and the adoption of
Mm,
data and that kind of stuff. How do you having been part of the business for all your life, pretty much, I guess,
yeah.
have you seen technology kind of come into your business? And firstly, how have you seen it come in, and how do you guys use it? And then we'll look at the future in a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, we launched our first website. I think it was sort of like in the late 90s, around about 98, 99. And I remember it was like a huge family discussion to have this website. Do we really need a website? What's a website? What's a website going to do what the brochure can't do? And you think like 98, 99, you're talking just less than 30 years ago, and how things have moved so much since then. So our first sort of venture into sort of using technology to run the business was our first website. It was for Woodland Vale Holiday Park, which is we bought in. It was actually March 1999. Thinking back, and that's where the name Vale Holiday Parks came from. It's named after the first park which we bought just as our family. So there's two families involved, the Scarrott and the Barkers, and we had Claret Bay Holiday Village, which is where I'm talking from now. But then the Scarrott family, we went off and started Vale Holiday Parks in 1999. It was our first time we ever then looked at technology to run the business, because before then it was what I refer to as everything was the P&P system, pen and paper. Um,
That will
and
come back. There'll be a business, a software business out there that's called P&P. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's got to be, yeah. So we then found, then once we launched that website, that's when we started to sort of really start to embrace the technology, because it was still emerging then, wasn't it? Not everybody had websites. There's still a lot of parks sending out brochures. I
Mm,
think around about 2003, that's when we stopped with our brochures, because then we had a very basic online booking system. And I think gradually, as the years have gone by, we've gone sort of fully digital with all of our marketing, advertising, and now, like I said, pretty much tech runs the business now. There's not much involved with pen and paper. Although I will say, if I'm at a meeting, I would do still like to keep handwritten notes.
yeah.
At a meeting. But other than that, everything in our business now has technology at the back of it. But I'd like to say it's always sense checked by an actual human being. Going back to what we were saying before about that instinctive sort of part of it when somebody's on the park and they see something.
Mm,
But there's absolutely no way at all we could run the business without tech.
mm.
It's just it wouldn't happen.
No, and how, looking across the sector as a whole, look,
Mm,
you've got a wider view of the sector. How do you see a difference in digital maturity in terms of different parks, different adoption of different technologies? How do you see that with your kind of wider lens? And then we'll
mm.
go back down on Vale, but your wider lens, how do you see the sector as a whole adopting technology?
I think it's quite a wide spectrum, because I'll speak to some park owners, and their version of using technology is running the business off Excel spreadsheets, which if it works for them, I'm not knocking that. It
No.
works, it's fine. It does the job. But then you have other parks then which are fully immersive. They're using they're using sort of like park management software, which is fully integrated, so it's doing all their meter readings for them. It's integrating using APIs into other software as well. It's linked into channel management systems. It's literally almost like an all-encompassing. What's the word for it? Jermaine from Elite. What's the word he uses? Um, ERP, hang on, enterprise resource planning management system, something like that.
Sure.
It's a full-on one-stop shop. And I'd like to say that we're probably much towards that end of the spectrum now. We've gone from the spreadsheets and we've progressed and developed over the years. But it is quite fragmented, depending
Mm.
on the park, depending on the people running the park. You got this thing now where you perhaps got the older generation who've been at the park for many, many years, and the younger generation, the next generation are coming through, and they're trying to bring in these ideas and bring in this new technology. And sometimes there's a little bit of resistance there because they've got a system that's tried and tested
Yeah.
and works. Why do we need to change? Why do we need to adapt? But
Mm.
I think you have to. I really do.
Then ask, we'll come onto the wonderful world of AI in a minute
Mm.
because that's an interesting one. How do you see across your parks and like you said, you've got quite a lot of parks. My guess would be there's quite a variance of customers across those parks, owners and retail. How have you seen uh, your guests use technology in different ways? Do your guests kind of, you said your dad's going around, he's going to have a look, he'll look, and your brother and you will look around and just notice little things in the parks and that kind of
Mm.
stuff that you might spark an idea. How have you seen your guests' adoption of technology change? You talked about websites and bookings,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. How
Well, I'll give you an example. So if you go back, so I'm going back now to when I was sort of a kid, late 80s, mid 90s. If you used to go into one of our club venues on a Saturday night and it's packed 300-400 people in there at Clarett Bay Holiday Village, everybody's attention and focus would be what's happening on the stage. And you could put a comedian on and they'd get the best of order. You could hear a pin drop in the room. You fast forward now and you can't really book comedians anymore because everybody's got one of these in constantly. And that's what you find now. The focus has gone from what's in front of them to what's on the phone.
yeah,
So one of the things where we see that is still in our club. So we use a system which is a fully interactive system where people can request the next song or what they want to sing on karaoke. Um, when we have a quiz, an interactive quiz, they download the app on the phone and they can be fully interactive with the quiz via their mobile device.
yeah.
So that's one area where we see it change. The other thing as well is booking now. Most of our bookings come from people making the booking on their
New
mobile
day.
phone. We're using technology now where if we have an event, say like a pantomime, or we're doing like a character breakfast, we use an online system, which means the customer gets a QR code. It's in their Apple Wallet
Yeah,
or the Google Wallet, and they can come in and they can scan straight in with it.
yeah.
So, the technology is there all around. We're using it, the customer's using it, and it's absolutely everywhere we look.
That's that point about the comedian is really interesting to me.
Mm.
'Cause I'm as much as I'm into the tech, because I should be, right? Because I've got the tech business. I'm more interested, if I'm honest, in the social aspects of it and how it's rewiring us as people, right? And
Yeah,
kids and that kind of stuff. And I've never ever thought of that. You've changed the type of entertainment you put on because people are distracted, in effect,
yeah,
by their devices in their hand.
totally. We've had to.
That's
We've had to. I mean, look, you go to any restaurant and you see a family sitting at the next table. I've got three daughters, and my youngest daughter's 11. She'll still be glued to a phone, watching some sort of YouTube channel. My 19-year-old she's starting to sort of socialize a little bit more now and
yeah.
sort of like interacting in person. My 14-year-old sort of somewhere in between.
Mm.
But even, you see it all the time. You see like iPads on tables or tablets on tables, and the focus is what's in front of them on that electronic device. So
Yeah.
we've had to sort of adapt our way of doing things to try and cope with that, to try and manage that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because what you said there is a very um, because we've gone from talking about the way the business is being run on these systems and PMSs and the F&B and that kind of stuff,
Mm,
which is fundamental to running an efficient business. Layered on top of that, you and your brothers and your dad's experience in business and parks to make those decisions to keep the business moving forward. And then you've got this stuff happening over here, which
mm.
guests just like that all the time on their phones. And you've changed the way you've changed your service. You've changed what you're giving people as part of their holiday based on stuff that I would never have even thought. I would
So
never.
pretty much every interaction we have with a customer, from when they enter the holiday park to when they leave the holiday park, will involve their phone. So when they come in, the first thing they do is they'll get their phone out because it's got the reservation on there. When they go to the bar, the first thing they do is when they buy a round of drinks, they'll tap their phone.
Yeah.
When they're sat enjoying entertainment, they're interacting through their phone with what's happening on the stage.
Yeah.
And some parks take that a step further, because they can open up the accommodation door using.
Yes.
We're not quite there yet with that, but a lot of parks are. So
Yeah.
it's all of our interactions with customers now. There's one of these at the forefront of it always.
It's interesting. We've done a couple of HELOC things. It's fascinating. Again, the technology is kind of, I shouldn't say this as a software vendor, it's relatively straightforward, right? But the behavior is really interesting. How do you see the, and I'm sure you use it, I'm sure your kids use it to an extent, um, and you're probably using it within the business already. How do you see, and it's a big question, right? Because one of the things I hate is when people talk about AI and they just focus on chat, right? It's much, much bigger than that. But how do you see the kind of tsunami of AI? Because we're all kind of being told about it. Oh, you've got to learn about it. How do you see that affecting both your business going
Mm.
forward and also your guests' kind of like experiences and use of it and engagement with you as a business? There's two questions.
Yeah, so it's an interesting point. So, full disclosure, like I say, full disclosure, but like most people, I'd imagine doing my job, I use AI every single day. So, my chosen AI is I use Microsoft Copilot. It's fully integrated with what we do, and it's almost like, for me personally, I've got my own personal assistant, who's on call 24 hours a day, seven days a week, and it's so I will use the AI to sort of proofread, to check things, to analyze data. Um, but the other side of it as well, which we're seeing, is when we get communications from guests because they may have a complaint or something they're not quite happy with, you can certainly see that on the other side that the guests are using AI as well to either write the reviews or to send in a query or a complaint. And it's almost as if um, the AI has taken over in that respect, because then we will look at using AI in
Yeah.
part of our response for that.
Yeah.
So you've just got these two AI chatbots going backwards and
Yeah.
forwards to each other,
Yeah.
which in some respects it saves a lot of time,
Yeah.
but in other respects it's removing that human to human interaction a little bit, isn't it?
You're moving the human from the circle, and that's
Yeah.
big. Without being too boring, that's a big area of interest I'm working on. And
Because the problem is, if we didn't, if a lot of our queries are coming from guests via AI, because of the volume of those queries, it's
Mm.
difficult for us to respond without ourselves using
Mm.
AI. And I'm not saying we're completely fully
No.
using the AI. We're checking everything, and some things we have to get some external advice on, but it is becoming a big part of day-to-day life.
Mm.
I mean, you would people still say, if you got a question, well, Google it. But I mean, people say, well, just ask ChatGPT. That's almost becoming the saying that's overtaken. The new saying, rather than Google something, you ChatGPT it.
It is, and that Google behavior, if you think about it, that has an impact on all businesses because when you've seen it yourself, PPC sponsored ads, that kind of stuff, they are
Mm.
not even if you're on page one now, one would argue, what's the point?
Yeah.
If you're under the fold or you're on page two, no one's going to see it. Well, actually, now you're not there because I mean, fundamentally, whoever pays Google the most will be in the chat results. But you're kind of pushed down. And how do you think that? How is that? We'll come to. We've chatted about guests there in terms of them sending their communications in using AI. How do you think AI affects the kind of visibility? Because a big thing of for all parks and all hospitality providers is direct bookings
Mm.
and kind of that. How do you see if you're looking over the next 12, 18 months? How are you, without giving your trade secrets away, how are you thinking of getting visibility in this kind of, it's no longer, here we go, PPC agency. I'm going to give you X amount of money a month, get us at the top of the rankings. That doesn't exist. So how are you as a business, how are you and personally, how are you thinking of getting Vale visible when people are searching using these different tools now?
Well, I think you've got to go to a firm that's an expert in that field
Mm.
because, as much as I use AI on a daily basis, I'm, by no means an expert. I'm by no means sort of, intermediate. My skills are not intermediate on AI. The very basic, this sort of everyday use. So I would go to, or we are going to, the likes of, yourselves and that people who are experienced in that field to guide us along because I think that's the key to it.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's a very tricky decision to make because I was at a travel tech thing in Edinburgh a few couple of months ago. I think I got invited by mistake. I was sitting next to a global director of Booking.com,
Mm.
and that makes you feel inadequate pretty quickly. When he says, "How many developers have you got?" And I'm like, "Oh, we got three or four." And he says, "Oh, we got 4,000." And I'm like, "Great,
Yeah.
right." And that was the day that Marriott Hotels had basically opened up their entire inventory to Gemini.
Okay.
And the guy from Booking basically went, uh, "We can't answer that. We can't respond to that because all of a sudden Gemini's on Android and iPhones now. That Apple used the same, pretty much the same AI as Gemini. You search for a holiday on your device or you search for it on your desktop using Gemini, the odds are that Booking.com are completely out of the loop because maybe I've gone, here's all our inventory, Google, you can access it, you can spider it, we can open it up to you through an API or an MCP or all that kind of stuff. And um, the OTAs, who their strategy is, we're going to pay more money because we've got to stay in between the parks or the hotels and the search is definitely gathering some pace, and that helps the Marriotts, but it doesn't necessarily help the rest of us who are kind of. So you're right. I think there needs to there's more, and we've done some work on it. There's some more creative ways to get visibility within those.
Yeah.
One area we're looking at particularly is on-device searches because the way Google and Apple are beginning to position themselves is in direct competition to chat. Whereas chat, you have to access a browser to get it. Gemini and Apple, it's on your phone.
Yeah.
So they want to keep you on your device and stop you. So they're looking at, and this is one thing we're looking at, they're looking at apps talking to each other, which is again, sorry, I'm rambling here. I said I would, didn't I, before?
No, no, it's interesting. I think you can't discount the. I mean, AI is obviously the way in which things are going. It's consuming our everyday lives. But I think one of the things I've seen over the last couple of years is almost having the influencers to help promote
Mm,
business for you.
mm.
I think that seems to carry a lot of traction.
That's it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Do you use influencers and
Actually, we don't. We don't. It's something we're looking into, but it's finding the right person.
mm,
And it's only where I've sort of been looking when my children are online. And I'll give you an example. We just come back from a family holiday,
mm,
and we went to the States,
mm,
and we spent a lot of time there driving around to Target stores because they want the latest water bottle, which is only available at Target because they've seen it on their TikTok feeds. So you can't get it in the UK. So when we got to, rather than going to one of the Disney theme parks one day, we spent the day trying to 5 or 6 different targets in Central Florida, trying to find these particular water bottles. And this like any other water bottle, but these
mm.
particular ones have. are being promoted by influencers. Um,
You touched on something really interesting there, which I made a note of earlier today, and I thought I'd kind of throw it in at you. Is that social selling?
yeah.
That is, and TikTok, and you've touched on YouTube, and you know, is going to become the biggest TV broadcaster in
Mm.
the UK in the next couple of months. So you don't use it at the moment, but it's something you're looking into, and how with you again, not necessarily today, but if you're stepping back and looking at the type of guests you get, how, and there seems to be a young generation of guests coming through, right? They're definitely
Yeah, and you'll see it. You'll see them on park. You'll see them walking. You'll see them walking around with a selfie stick, and they're just, talking to camera, doing a piece to camera. They're not bothered by anything that's going around them whatsoever. And they're giving a review, and these are sort of like, kids 14, 15, 16 who are sort of vlogging on the holidays and that.
yeah,
You see it happen all the time. We have been approached a couple of times by influencers who have, maybe got 100, 200,000 followers,
Mhm.
and they'll offer to come and they basically want to stay for free, and they will give you. I prefer not to do that. I prefer people to come, pay for it, and give us their absolutely honest
Honest.
opinion.
Yeah.
Which we've had that happen a few times as well, which has been really good for us.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do see that as a way in which businesses, especially holiday parks, will try and attract people to come and stay with them.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Mm.
The breadth and impact and not even complexity, but variation of digital.
Yeah,
We've gone from we've talked about your first website, your PMS systems, your food and beverage systems, the fact that you're changing your services based on people's addiction to their phones,
yeah,
but AI and the way you're using it and how it's going to affect OTAs, social influencers. I often, when I step back, I often think the pressure, and that's not in a negative way, but the need for parks in particular to be just aware of all this, whether they want to do one of them or not. It's kind of, but you've got to be aware, haven't you? And is that
yeah. And how
really?
much do you want to trust AI as well? That's the other thing. So when a lot of the times now, I hear my children talking. We're sat down, eating dinner, and they'll talk, well, is that real or is that AI? And they'll show you a video, and you can't work out, is it real or is it AI? So I think we've got to approach it with caution. Definitely, AI is a brilliant thing, but we've got to be cautious because you don't know if what you're seeing is actually real or not.
It's the number one thing that again came up from this travel session in Edinburgh with the
Mm.
with big VCs, and there were some big companies there. The number one thing that came up was trust.
Yeah,
How do we know what we're looking at is trustworthy? Not just from reviews, but prices.
yeah,
The injection of there was the Anthropic who developed Claude came up a couple of weeks ago, just basically saying, uh, yeah, we've developed an AI model that can hack into any software solution globally, anything,
mm.
and can hack into it and it can manipulate data. But it's a good bit of PR from them because they've gone, but we're not releasing it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a good bit of marketing and PR. But
That's
but
very clever.
but that's that trust thing, isn't it? As the price,
Mm.
I mean, airlines have done it for years. You have to clear your browser to see a different price. Otherwise, you
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into the realms of dynamic pricing, which it's you look at dynamic pricing. AI now is at the forefront of dynamic pricing because a lot of these prices are set by AI, whereas before it'd be set by a team of people, sort of data analysts sat in a room,
yeah.
just looking at the screens all day and just doing it manually. So
There
AI is even coming into, well, it has been, yeah, it's been for a while now into dynamic pricing models.
there are solutions out there, Thomas, where AI, you have a personal AI, and you think, oh, it's doing the best for me, but what it's actually doing is it's sending data to businesses and saying, this is Dave, he can afford this, but he can't afford that, or he
Mm,
drives this car and he goes on these holidays, therefore put the price up.
yeah,
And it's like, oh, hold on a minute. So very, very personalized prices of everything from a pair of shoes to a car. One of the hacks and the tricks I've suddenly come across, and it's an obvious one, is when looking at stuff abroad, holidays abroad, or travel abroad or whatever, I use a VPN now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And you just think, well, of course, I'd use a VPN. And the
yeah.
price, we're going to Croatia later this year.
Let
Um,
me know how that goes. I want to go there. It's on my list of places to
I,
visit.
ah, I, yeah, I can't say enough about it. It's just stunning. Um, for the ferries, I didn't have my VPN on. I looked at the price. It was, I don't know, 30 quid for a journey between the
Mm.
islands. Went on my VPN, Croatia, translated the page to English with the thing, 20 euros.
Yeah, so when you're on the VPN, then you're connecting to a Croatian server as if
Yeah.
you're local doing it.
Your local doing it, get a better
Yeah,
price.
yeah,
But it doesn't, because you can translate the page,
yeah, yeah,
you need a different price you're paying. So it's like, that's interesting. I kind of just like,
yeah.
there's always workarounds, you see. There's always, isn't there? There's always these workarounds. So I'm conscious of your time. I know you said you got
No,
the,
look, I've got as much time as you need.
I'm just
I'm
bombarded.
enjoying the chat. It's really good.
Oh, God, don't say that. No one ever says that to me. Even the dog's asleep down here, been next to me. So if you were kind of I know it's very difficult, isn't it? But if you were to step back and if you ever had any quiet time, um, and you were to say, okay, you were to think, okay, what's going to happen over the next 12 months, 18 months, from a
Mm.
tech perspective and from a sector perspective, really, where would you say the two or three things that are at the forefront of your mind in terms of where you want to be as a business and where you think you need to be from a tech perspective as a business?
Yeah, I mean, you can break it down into a few categories. So I think operational efficiency and revenue management is key. You know, what tech can we use to make us operate more efficiently? Can we use AI, which we are doing at the moment, to help us operate more efficiently? I think a big thing is sustainability, energy management.
Mm,
So, there's smart meters, there's, even having the ability to automatically read owners' meters and then provide them with the data so they can see where their peaks and troughs are. That's really important.
mm,
And also from the hospitality side of the business as well. I always like that human interaction when I'm going to buy a pint of beer or I'm going to order a meal at the bar or whatever. But I also see a need for people that want to use online mobile ordering. So you see a lot of I've been to a lot of holiday parks where they've got like a dark bar set up around the back,
yeah,
and all that's doing is just processing online ordering
yeah,
from mobile apps.
yeah.
And then the key to all this, of course, then is making sure you've got the platform where this is all fully integrated. Because I think one of the things you can be in danger of doing is having like 10 different pieces of software doing 10 different things. And there's no API link between them whatsoever. You're running 10 different systems. So one of the things we try and do in our business is work from one centralized database. So if we're adding new tech to it, it's got to be something that can seamlessly work with the tech that we've already got in place. So we're not having to, and I see that's where it's going. I think sort of, and also making people stay more connected. Um,
Mm,
like we said before, when they arrive, their phone or their mobile devices is a key part of their stay with us, be it from the check-in, ordering food, interacting in the entertainment, and that's where I see things. That's where I see things going over the next couple of years.
it's they come up regularly.
Mm.
Efficiency, sustainability, and kind of connectivity. It's really interesting. And I think the wider hospitality sector is from a demand perspective. And you're right. We haven't even talked about the war, right? At the time of speaking, that's
Yeah, it's
energy prices and all that kind of stuff for guests as well as for.
yeah. Well, I think you can take it a step, but I think you go back to COVID. I think COVID, as we all know, has completely changed people's habits in so many ways, hasn't it? Especially the way in which we interact with people. So I think as a result of COVID, we've lost a lot of that face-to-face interaction. So we're now more driven to use our technology, and technology has improved as a result of that. But there are other things as well, like the war, the ongoing war now. There's two major ongoing wars as we speak about that, and that's having an impact. It's having an impact on our energy prices. Um, so what can we do as a business to make sure we're using less energy? Obviously, most importantly is the environmental aspect of that and the sustainability aspect of it, but also it impacts the bottom line as well. So the use of smart meters is a big thing. The ability to have dashboards so we can see what each of our meters are doing when they're pulling the most electricity, efficiencies we can make inside our central facilities. My dad's done it for years. It really winds him up if he walks in somewhere and there's been a light switch left on.
Yeah.
We've changed a lot of our light switches now to sensors and on timers, um, and putting sort of like energy management practices in place because we've got to. Because going back 18 months ago, the price of electric per unit was just absolutely astronomical when it went up to as a result of what was happening in Ukraine. And we're starting to see that now with gas prices, what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to what can we do? How can we use technology to make us more efficient and also to make the business more sustainable as well?
Yeah, it's you're absolutely right about COVID. It's easy to forget, isn't it? Actually,
Mm.
societally, it's easy to forget what happened. We were locked in our homes for 2 or 3 years, in 2 years in effect. If you had all the lockdowns together, unless of course you were the prime minister at the time, you could do what you want. But
Yeah.
um, and we launched our products in COVID, pure, you know, you was like, oh my goodness, what we're going to do. But you're right, people had to adopt technology to
I mean,
keep.
look, how many people before COVID? We're doing this on Zoom now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How many people before COVID ever used Zoom before?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It changed our
Look what they've
behavior.
done to the share price of Zoom. I remember the CEO, he was on every sort of cover of every magazine and he's been interviewed all the time. And, COVID really gave his business a boost and brought it to the forefront because everybody relied on it, didn't they?
They did, and it's interesting. It's
Even
that
my grandma, so to interrupt my grandma, so my grandma is 102 next week.
blimey.
She lives by herself in South Wales. She's very independent. She still smokes like a trooper, and has a tot of whiskey before she goes to bed every
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
But yeah, she'll sit in her armchair in the daytime, and she's able to use Zoom
yeah,
to connect with members of the family. She's able to use her Alexa fully to sort of ask it to do different things for her and call different people.
yeah,
And that pretty much came as a result of COVID. So she would have been in a late 90s at the time when she first embraced technology. And now, I went to see her yesterday, and the first thing she said to me after she gave me a hug was, "Can you have a look at my internet? My internet's down."
Oh,
Now, how many 102-year-olds tell their grandson that their internet is down, and can you have a look at it for me, please? I thought it was fantastic. So,
you're absolutely right. My mum's 82. She's 20 years younger than your nan, and she's the same. She was living in London at the time, and yeah, she had to use it. She now does her food shopping. And again, I went to see my mum yesterday. She goes, I think I've deleted all my contacts. And I was like, why are you playing with your But I was just having a go, see what I could do.
yeah,
But that you're right. Every generation, to different extents, is using it. And I suppose that's what all businesses have got to be aware of, right? We've got to be aware as a software business, accessibility, making sure that the buttons can be bigger, the text can be bigger.
totally.
We're also looking at doing um, uh, put in hibernation for half an hour. If you're there with the kids on a park having a great time in the swimming pool, just grey our app. It'll grey out for half an hour. You won't get any notifications, or you won't be bothered.
Yeah,
And I think, to your point, that to one of your points is around that shows a respect to the guest about what they want and what they want to do and what they don't want to do. You're not pushing stuff upon them. They're using tech in a way, it's the flip of you removing you not having comedians so much now. It's we're respecting the guest to go, you can turn it off a bit. Don't it's fine. Just grey it out and it'll come back on whenever you want it. So yeah. No, I love that. I love that about your nan. That's great. What a great place to end, right?
yeah.
You fixing your nan's internet, and that just shows, doesn't it? How from 98, 99 when you bought Woodland Vale. now you're kind of like how tech has just completely been fundamental to your business over the last, blimey, what's that, 28 years? That makes both of us feel old, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thomas. I'm going to
Thank
press
you, thank you very much.
stop now. You've been brilliant, by the way. Excellent. I've really enjoyed this.
Was that all right? Was it okay? Was it?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much.